Alright, it says we're live. What quality? Okay, we're running in 1080-60. Good. Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here. So it's been a very long time since I've done a stream on this channel. I don't stream very often. But I thought I would stream today. Just because we have the PlayStation event coming up on Thursday, so really tomorrow is the... I guess PlayStation's like E3 or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's not what it's called, but yeah, this is live. But yeah, PlayStation's showcase or whatever is happening tomorrow, so I don't know if I'm going to do a reaction to it or not. I'm considering it, but I kind of thought just before that, something PlayStation related, I would do a tier list for PlayStation exclusives. So it's only PS4/PS5 games, ones that I have played. So there's no, like, you know, like games like Persona 5, Final Fantasy. I haven't played those, so they're not going to be on here. Anyways, so this is the list here. This is the order that they're going to be getting ranked in. Made this list myself and everything, so yeah. I don't know what the music sounds like. If it's too loud or something. Persona 5, Final Fantasy. I haven't played those, so they're not going to be on here. Anyways, so this is the list here. Or if you can even hear it. I have no fucking clue. Whatever. Anyways, okay, so first up, I guess by default we have Last of Us Remastered. So Last of Us, the first one of my favorite games of all time. First played it back in 2013 on the PS3. The remastered version improved a few things, like it made the game 1080p and 60 FPS over like 720 target 30 on the PS3, so it was definitely just like a smoother game. And then on the PS4 Pro they added a few extra things like a 4K mode and whatnot, so things that improve the game. Overall, it's definitely, like I said, one of the best games ever made. Great story, great characters. Gameplay is good in my opinion. I've never had any complaints with it. There's some people out there who think that the game has pretty mediocre, average gameplay, and the story is the only thing really going for it. But I don't feel that way. I've always thought the gameplay was serviceable, so I'm putting it in Masterpiece tier. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, so it's going all the way up there. Next up, we got God of War. Is this even playing? I don't fucking know. This isn't even like my kind of music. It's just like stereotypical streaming music. Anyways, so yeah, 10 out of 10, masterpiece, whatever you want to call it. Next up, God of War. Hopefully my camera hasn't disconnected. No, it hasn't. Next up, God of War. Yeah, love this game. It's great. That's definitely what I'm hoping we get to see at the showcase on Thursday is any kind of footage at this point for God of War 5, Ragnarok, whatever it's going to end up being called. It's definitely going to be there 100%. As far as what we're going to see, I don't know if we're going to get gameplay because the whole stream is only 40 minutes long. So it would have to be like the last 5 minutes of the stream or something if it's going to be the ending. But I don't know. I think we're going to get a trailer, but it's going to be a like an in-game trailer. I don't think it's just going to be like a cinematic trailer that's, you know, just footage they make that's not actually in the game. I think it'll if it is going to be a trailer, I think it'll be footage that's actually going to be in the game. Something in the same vein as like, because I guess Horizon Forbidden West had a kind of a cinematic trailer, but there was some stuff in there that you could tell was actual like game stuff. So I don't know. But anyways, as far as God of War goes, great game. I love it. Probably my favorite combat system in a game. Like if you're talking not like a shooter, like if you're talking like a hand-to-hand combat game or just like melee combat, whatever, it's my favorite. The way you can like create combos and stuff, kind of just like with whatever you want, like just chains of different attacks. It's just really fun gameplay. It's got a great story, like I said. The previous games in the series, I'm turning off this music, it's stupid. Previous games in the series, they had like stories obviously still, but they weren't super deep, and Kratos as a character was like, there wasn't really much to him. So the game definitely, the new one just improved on all of those things and really made that series something like truly special, which it already was like one of PlayStation's trademark franchises, but it just furthered that, and it furthered Santa Monica as being one of PlayStation's best studios. So great game. I don't know if it's quite masterpiece tier for me, honestly. I have a few like minor things that kind of just hold it back, and like I don't I don't consider a masterpiece like technically a flawless game, because nothing's flawless. But masterpiece is just a game that, you know, I, the issues, as small as they are, whatever it has, just doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't hold back the game whatsoever, because I still love everything else so much. I don't really know how to explain it. God of War isn't quite like that for me. I think it's fantastic. It's just not quite a masterpiece. Some of the things that hold it back for me, there's definitely a lack of like enemy variety. A lot of the mini bosses are just like repeats of each other, reskins, and they're just not very exciting. And sometimes the game's story can kind of bring you back to certain locations a bit too many times, or it's like, okay, we get to this next part, and then you have to backtrack because something goes wrong, and that happens just a little bit too much for my own taste, but still a great game. It's usually considered the best PS4 exclusive. All right, next up we've got Returnal, which is one of the new PlayStation games from this year. So I actually haven't completely finished this game at the time of this live stream, but I've gotten far enough into it to know what my thoughts on it are, and I think it's a really damn good game. I did kind of like a first impressions review of it back in, I want to say like April or so, or May or whenever it came out. And like I said, I really like it. I think it's got super addictive gameplay. Like, the gameplay loop is awesome. Combat feels great. The controller, I don't think there's ever been a game that's used the DualSense controller as well as Returnal has. If you're not counting like, Astro's Playroom or anything like that. Like, it's got damn good gameplay. Really addicting. Bosses are awesome. It's a super difficult game, and that's why I haven't finished it at this point. But I did get past one location that I was stuck on, and yeah, really just awesome overall. It looks nice. Soundtrack's pretty good as well. I like the like synthy kind of like horror vibes that it has. Story is kind of something that's more up to interpretation. It's not like a clear-cut story like a lot of other Sony games are. It's a lot more like abstract in that sense, but I kind of like that about it. And overall, I just think it's a lot of fun. So I'm putting on the great tier. I definitely think it's going to be one of the Game of the Year contenders at the end of the year when the awards happen. I'm really hoping the awards this year are like in person, where you have like the big audience cheering. I don't know though. Probably not. All right, next up, Ratchet and Clank 2016. So I finally played this game this year for the first time. I tried it so many times in the past, and I could just never really get into it. I would play like the first hour or so, and it just was never really for me. But with Rift Apart coming out and being like one of the first legitimate PS5 exclusives, I was kind of like, all right, you have to play this game, you have to get through it. So I did, and I really ended up enjoying it. I think it's quite a bit of fun. The humor is nice. It's got pretty cool locations for the most part. Combat's serviceable, right? Like, it's a good package overall, but pretty much like virtually every single aspect of that game is improved in the sequel, in Rift Apart. So I think it's a really solid game. It's just that, like I said, every single thing is better in Rift Apart. So it's kind of like you go back to Ratchet and Clank 2016 and it's still an entertaining game, but it just almost feels like worse now because of all of the improvements they made to everything. Like, just the combat is not even like a huge improvement when it comes to the combat in the next one, but it is better. And then obviously you have all the world related stuff, which is just way cooler in the second one. So I'm going to put it on the good tier. Still a really solid game, but definitely like it's just kind of worsened by how good the sequel is. All right, next up we have Until Dawn, which is one of those like choose your own story kind of games where you make a decision and it drastically affects the outcome of your game, and there's multiple different endings. So I played this game, and then I also had my friend over, and he played it like in one night. I watched him play through the whole thing, and it was honestly a pretty great experience getting to see him make all of his decisions, what he did different than me. Until Dawn, really good game. Like, I like these kind of games. I like the variety of and story options. These companies, I don't remember who makes this one, but they definitely do a better job than companies like Telltale. The issue is that, like, no matter what you did, the final outcome was always the same, so it didn't really feel like your choices affected that much in the end. Whereas, like, with games like Until Dawn or Detroit, as I'll talk about later, the choices you make in these games do like drastically affect the outcome of everything. So I feel like they're more interesting in that sense. The weak point of these games, though, is the gameplay always. They don't really have much gameplay to them. You move your character around with the stick, and then you like usually hold the trigger down or press a couple buttons. But it's not like there's any combat or anything like that to the game. They're very much so just about the characters and your decisions, and I'm okay with that. But it does hold them back, in my opinion, from being like super high up on my list or anything. Because if you had a game like Until Dawn that had like actual combat and real gameplay mechanics, it could get up that high on my list because I really liked this game. I found the story, it kind of had like a fun B-movie horror vibe to it, but it's just well made. I liked the characters. Overall, it's a really, really good game. It's just not quite on the great tier because, again, it's like for the type of game that it is, I think it's great, but as an overall package, I think it's a good game. All right, next up, Knack, which is kind of like the butt of all jokes when it comes to PlayStation. A lot of people make fun of Knack as a game. I think it's entertaining. Here's the thing: it's obviously a game made for kids, right? Like it's a family-centric game, and it succeeds at that. Like I got my PS4 when I was, I think like it was 2014 that I got one. Yeah, so I would have been. It was in the summer, so I would have been 11 when I got it, like 11 and a half, and I was like super happy to get a PlayStation. Knack was the first game I played, and I had a lot of fun with it. Like it's a really entertaining game for kids. Obviously, if I go back to it now, I probably wouldn't feel that way. And I have tried out Knack 2, like within the last year, and yeah, it was okay. Like right, it's not meant for people like my age now or anything. It's a kids game. So it's not like anything special in that regard, but it's still just, I think it gets a bit too much hate because again, like it's just a family game. It's not like anything special. I'm going to put it on the okay tier. I think the most enjoyable aspect about it, and it's a weird thing, but when you destroy boxes, you suck up cubes and your character gets bigger, and it always, just the sound design I always thought was really cool, and that's pretty much it. All right, next up, Demon Souls. So this was the first Souls game that I ever fully played. I had tried out other Souls games before this. I think just Bloodborne, really. And Demon Souls was the Souls game that got me addicted to the franchise. I love the game. It's my favorite PS5 game at this point of all the ones that have been released. It's just awesome. Like, you have super addicting gameplay. Visually, it's one of the best looking games I've ever played. I know there's fans of the original 2009 version who complain that this one like took too many liberties with like how they designed it and stuff. Like the visuals are not as bleak as they were in the original. It's too colorful or whatever now, and the music isn't as good. I mean, I never played the original version, so I don't have like that nostalgia for that one or anything like that. But I honestly think that the visuals and the music are improved in the new one. Some of the songs I like in the original, but for the most part, I find like most of the technical stuff is just better here. Bosses are awesome. I played this game with a lot of people online. It's like a really fun game to play with other players, and the difficulty of it is great as well. I remember like when I first played it, which was when I got my PS5 the day I got it on launch. I tried the game and I just couldn't get into it. I figured, I was like, you know what, I just don't think the Souls games are for me. And then eventually I went back to it. And then once I finished the first boss fight, I immediately like understood what it was all about. So then I did the second boss fight, and I just got so addicted to like just that feeling of overcoming like kind of like that big roadblock, that boss fights. And so it got me just like super addicted to that style of gameplay. And since then I've really liked the Souls games, and I can't wait for Elden Ring. So this one's going all the way up to Masterpiece tier. All right, next up we have Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, whatever. So this was a pretty huge game. I remember being really excited for this, getting like finally a Spider-Man game that wasn't based on the movies. I mean, there were some in recent years, but I think the last one that I could really think of was probably Edge of Time, and that was like 2011, I want to say that came out. So it was actually, no, never mind, that was 7 years prior. Really, like, the last Spider-Man game we got before this was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, based on the movie, and that was a really bad game. So getting an original story was really cool. And I remember at first I was kind of, like, I thought the game just looked a bit weird, like, the design of Spider-Man with, like, the white symbol. It was using, like, villains that were pretty unknown, like, Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, like, just, like, kind of like a newer villain in the comics. So it was kind of going for something different. I didn't know how to feel about it at first, but as soon as we started seeing actual gameplay, I started to get really hooked on it. And yeah, it's an awesome game. I've played it probably like 5 times or 4 or 5 times at this point in my life. So it's one of my more played PlayStation exclusives out of the ones from the PS4 generation, and it's just really fun. It's got really addicting gameplay. The web swinging is the best it is in any video game. Like, they nailed it. The combat is really good for the most part. It's similar to the Arkham games, but just it feels more like Spider-Man would, as far as like just the movements and whatnot. So all that stuff's really good. The only really weak point for the game for me was the side missions. They just feel kind of generic. It's just a lot of like basic open world activities. Like, okay, there's a car chase or whatever, and there's so many of them to do, so it gets kind of repetitive. I feel like in the sequel, what they could improve on is introducing more sidelines that actually have, or side stories that actually have like plots or stories to them. Like, for example, introduce like Mysterio or something, and then you have to like do a couple missions where he's the villain. Stuff like, like what the Arkham games did, where you have pretty notable comic book villains who aren't in the main story, but you have them in the side levels, just because it's exciting and it's better than swinging around and catching pigeons. So I really hope that that's something that they do in the second one. But yeah, great game. The boss fights are not the greatest. That's something they could also improve on, but really fun overall. I'm putting it on the... I'm going to go amazing tier, honestly, just because I've played it so many times, and it's just a pretty... Like, I think the actual quality of it is more so on the great tier, but I think just personal enjoyment, I'm putting it up on amazing. Alright, next up, Bloodborne. This was my second Souls game that I went to. Actually, no, sorry, the second one I went to was Dark Souls 3, which I haven't finished. I think Dark Souls 3 is probably the hardest Souls game I've tried out so far. Harder than Demon Souls, harder than Bloodborne. Bloodborne's actually the easiest one I've played so far, which might be surprising because I know a lot of people actually consider Bloodborne to be one of the harder ones, but I don't know. I understand the mechanics more. Like, there's the whole parrying thing that you can do, because the thing in Bloodborne is you don't get like tons of like really thick armor. You don't get to block with a shield like you do in the other Souls games. It's all about like just agility and being really fast and quick and stuff, and parrying with your gun. And I actually love that element of it. It's really fun. I love like the more fast-paced feel to the combat. So Bloodborne, just from a straight up gameplay standpoint, I feel like is probably the most entertaining of the Souls games that I've played. I mean, I know that Sekiro has the same kind of style where it's more fast-paced, but I really like it here. Again, played it with some people online, had a lot of fun doing that. I think that's the way I like to play Souls games, is with other people, because it's just really addicting that way. And it makes it easier, so I guess the challenge is kind of slightly removed, but it's still just awesome. Really good boss fights. I love the feel of the game and like the look of it, like that kind of gothic architecture, old Victorian era. Like, it's really, really awesome looking, amazing music and everything. So I'm putting Bloodborne all the way up on the masterpiece tier, honestly. I think it is like just a really great game. A lot of people consider it like the best Souls game, and I can definitely see why. I think it's phenomenal. All right, next up, you've got Horizon Zero Dawn. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, I honestly just couldn't really get into this game. I got it in 2017, a few months after it came out, and I didn't finish it until 2020. Like, I played it over the course of 3 years. It was kind of just a game I always had downloaded, and I would just throw it on in the background for a little bit. And by the time I finished it, I didn't even really know what the story was about exactly. And it was funny because it wasn't until like 2020 when I finished the game where I actually started to get kind of interested in it. That was when I started to be a bit more like, okay, that's when I would sit down and play it for maybe like 5 hours rather than just like throw it on for 30 minutes or something. So I finally finished it, and it's just, I don't really know if it's entirely my game. And it's funny because I am really excited for Forbidden West. I think Forbidden West just looks more interesting. I think it looks way nicer from a visual standpoint. The combat looks better. So I just think it looks like a better game overall. But I still like Zero Dawn. It's just, again, not really my kind of game. I'm not into... Like, I like open world games, because obviously there's some on my list already, like Spider-Man and whatnot, but I don't love games like Breath of the Wild or Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are just two examples of games that, like, I've just tried before that I like them and I can see why people love them, but they're just not really for me. I don't know what it is about them. I prefer more like simplistic open world, like something like Spider-Man or even like Red Dead or like Red Dead Redemption or something like that. I find that just more easygoing for me. I think it's because in like games like Skyrim or Fallout, because those are other ones that I don't care for. It's just there's so much stuff, and you always are like picking up like hundreds and hundreds of items that I just don't know what to do with. And that's kind of my issue. It's just so much stuff to like kind of like look out for and whatnot. It's just not my style. I prefer just a more entertaining experience, even if it's less creative in that sense, if it just allows me to just have more fun. That's kind of how I feel about it. So I just prefer other types of open world. It's definitely one I need to replay. Now that they've finally released a 60 FPS patch, I see myself going back to it and finishing it, or replaying it, I should say. I don't think I'm going to do it quite yet because there's a few games coming out this month, but I know towards the end of the year, things are pretty dead for games, so it's probably like around November or so that I'm going to pick this one back up and replay it. So I'm going to put it on I'm still going to put it on the good tier because it's not a bad game by any means, or even okay for that matter. It's good, it's just not really for me. All right, next up we have Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is, I don't know if you want to call it like a sequel. It's kind of like Spider-Man 1.5 because it's not a full-length game. It's like 4 to 5 hours or so to complete the main story. But it does have a pretty solid story at the same time. Like, it is a good game that focuses on Miles Morales after the events of the first Spider-Man game. So now he's becoming his own Spider-Man. Peter's away on like a trip. And so I do really like the story here. I like playing as Miles. His gameplay I find really entertaining. I like it more than Peter's, I'd say, just because you get the Venom abilities, and it's pretty awesome to use that in combat. Like, he has more physical attacks, whereas Peter has more gadgets and stuff, and I like that about the like just how it differentiates between the two. As far as the open world goes, I like the winter setting. I think it looks awesome. The visuals are really nice. The game looks great. I'm really hoping that for Spider-Man 2, they expand the map, because if it's just Manhattan again, it's going to be pretty repetitive. I think they should like unlock the bridge and, you know, go over to like Queens and stuff, so it's just more area to cover, more ground to cover. But yeah, Miles Morales, really good. Liked the story, like I said. For a short game, I feel like it has a pretty good, like a pretty solid story that has some good depth to it and explores the character, the relationships well. So in many ways, I think it's like a really, really solid game. So I'm putting it on the great tier because, like I said, I'd actually say it's like kind of slightly underrated. It doesn't get talked about that much, and I think for its length, it does a lot of really awesome stuff with its story and its characters. And I actually might like the story of it more than the story of 2018 Spider-Man. I don't know. Maybe not, but it's pretty good. All right, next up we've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So this is the most recently released PS5 exclusive. So, like I said earlier, the first Ratchet and Clank, like the 2016 one, I liked it, but it wasn't really my kind of... I tried it in the past, and I liked it, but I'm still screwing up. I tried it in the past, didn't care for it, finally finished it this year, and I actually enjoyed it. Whereas with like Rift Apart, I immediately liked it, because every aspect, like I said, about the 2016 game is just improved in Rift Apart. It's got way better like locations. The graphics are amazing. Like, it's obviously a cartoonish game, but it's so clear looking. Everything is just so like high res. It's a freaking amazing game to look at. A lot of the SSD stuff is pretty cool. Like, it still doesn't feel to me like a game that's like, oh, it can only be run on PS5. Like, I'm sure if you tried putting it on a PS4, it wouldn't work, but it doesn't quite like. I don't know how to put it. Like, there was a few moments where I was like where I was kind of wowed by things, but I wasn't as blown away as I thought I would have been consistently. But yeah, again, it wouldn't run on a PS4, but it's just that like I wasn't mind blown by what was happening all the time. But it is a really great game. Gameplay's good. The only issue I have with it, or the biggest issue, is there's just way too many repeat mini bosses. There's a lot of just the same robot thing like overused constantly, and it's just kind of repetitive. But anyways, great game. Really, really like it. One of my favorites of the year so far. All right, next up, Days Gone. Days Gone is kind of considered one of like the low tier PlayStation exclusives to come out in the PS4 generation. It's made by I don't even remember the name of a Sony Bend studio, who really, this is like their first AAA game. They made one game back in the 90s called like Bubsy 3D, which is kind of like a joke on some channels, and then they made a couple of PS Vita or PSP games, whatever, and that's really it. Like, they were a relatively small company, and so PlayStation gave them the chance to make a big AAA title, and right off the bat, it's just not polished as well as many other companies' games are from PlayStation. I remember the game came out and it was riddled with bugs and glitches. But that being said, it still looks great. Like, it has the look of a big Sony game. It just doesn't run as well. At this point, it's been fixed. Like, the game's been out for like 3 years now, so 2 years. So they fixed all the glitches and that kind of stuff. So it runs solid and whatnot now. I still don't think it's an amazing game or great or anything like that. It's entertaining. The combat's alright. It's not anything special. It's a little bit on the generic side, but the best part of the game is by far just kind of riding around on your bike throughout the open world and being chased by hordes of zombies, because when you get like 400 zombies running at you, tripping over each other in this game, it's pretty awesome to look at. The open world, it's like an Ubisoft type open world. It's not anything special, but it does look nice, and there's some cool locations and stuff. So it's a fun game overall that I recommend, but it's not anything special. The story is pretty forgettable as well. I remember like looking up, well, like a year ago or so, how long of a game it is on howlongtobeat.com, and it was the average length of 35 hours, and I was like, what? 35 hours? Because again, the story, it's pretty forgettable, so I would have guessed like 15, but 35 is crazy, so putting on like good tier. Alright, next up we've got Detroit Become Human. So this is in the same vein as Until Dawn. It's another one of those games where you make your own story, or like, you don't make your own story, but you make your own decisions, and then it alters the story. And you have like tons of different endings. This game probably has more choices, or no, it definitely has more choices than Until Dawn has. I've only played it once, and it's probably a game I could go back to, and my choices would be different, because I haven't played it in like 3 years, so I don't even remember every story beat. But it's a really, really good game. It's got a pretty solid story. I like the characters a lot in it. I don't care too much for Marcus's storyline. Like, out of the 3 storylines you follow, his is the least intriguing. It's basically like you start like a robot uprising type thing, or like a rebellion. It's all right. I don't think it's anything crazy good. But the other 2 storylines I love. I'm gonna just take my headset off. I don't even need it on because I don't have any music playing, and it's like hurting my ears. I'm not a big headphones person to be honest. It always annoys my ears. Much more prefer like surround sound, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so Detroit Become Human, like I said, overall good game. I really like Connor's storyline, where you're kind of going around as like a detective. That's probably the best storyline in the game, and then you've got the one with Kara, which is more like the emotional core of the game. It works, I think. All the storylines work for what they're going for. I just think Marcus's is like the least interesting. Days Gone's lit. Yeah, Days Gone's it's a good game. But no, as far as Death Stranding, as far as Detroit goes, again, I'm gonna put it on probably the same tier as Until Dawn, because I just think those games, they don't have like anything special from a gameplay standpoint. If they did, like if they had legitimate gameplay, then they could easily reach amazing tier or something like that, but they just have pretty gameplay. Hey Fowler, how's it going? So I'm putting it on the good tier. Again, obviously this isn't my final ranking, like I'm gonna be swapping these around and stuff. This is just where I'm placing them for now. Alright, next up, Last of Us Part 2. So we have come to the divisive game on the list. So Last of Us Part 2, obviously probably one of the most controversial games ever among like gaming fans. Like, it's just a very widely discussed game. It's one of those things where I just don't even like talking about the game that much, because it's just so hated on, or like just the discourse around it is so annoying and whatever. It's kind of the same way I felt about like the Star Wars sequels, right? Where I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I just don't like talking about Star Wars even anymore, just because you have so many people who are just so argumentative about it. So that's how, same vein as Last of Us Part 2 in that sense. But anyways, that being said, I like the game. I've played it many times now. I don't know how many times. I think I've played it about 4 or 5 times. It's a really well-made game. There's no denying that. Like, the story, I'll talk about story last. The gameplay, the visuals, all that stuff. The sound design is phenomenal. The soundtrack is great. So all the technical stuff is, in my opinion, flawless. Even there's people who say the gameplay is not anything special. I disagree. I think it's a great third-person shooter, very brutal and entertaining. But yeah, the biggest thing is the story, and the story is something that even I'm divided on because there's decisions I just still to this day don't know how to feel about them. I still kind of am slightly against killing off Joel at the start. I don't mind that Joel dies. I don't give a shit. It's kind of obvious who's gonna die. It's just the fact that it happens within the first like hour or whatever of the game. It's kind of like, yeah. And it's not to say that like there's nothing with Joel in the game. The flashbacks are phenomenal, but it's still just a decision I'm kind of iffy on. And then as far as playing as Abby goes, I'm not against it. It's just I don't find her storyline very interesting. They try to make you care for her relationship with Lev, and to me, it just feels like a weaker version of Ellie and Joel's relationship, just more rushed, and it doesn't really have the same depth. So it's just kind of I can't really connect to her as a character or Lev or any of them, and I don't know. I don't really care for her side of the game's story. I care more about the set pieces because she has all the cool set pieces, whereas Ellie has the story that I care more about. So I don't know. Overall, I really like the game. Like I said, I think it's technical wise, it's flawless, but it's just the story is something that I'm always flip-floppy on. Like some days it's a good game for me, some days it's like amazing. Like I'm always back and forth on it. Like I feel like it's just somewhere between these two, between great and amazing. So I'm gonna that's tough. I'm gonna put it on great right now. I might move it up to amazing. But like I said, I'm just so flip-floppy on the story. It's definitely not a bad game though. Like I do not consider it a bad game whatsoever. I think it's hated on too much. But it is what it is. Next up, we got Sackboy: A Big Adventure. So I haven't actually finished this game. It's just like one of the launch titles I picked up, and it was probably the weakest launch title I got. It's an enjoyable game for what it is, but it's just nothing special. Again, it's a fun kids game. It's more entertaining than like Knack, for example, but it's still not anything remarkable. It's got a good soundtrack. It's cute. I don't really have much to say about it. I think the biggest issue is just like the movement. Like it feels, I don't know how to explain it, but like when you're playing as Sackboy, it just feels a little sluggish. Like it should be more responsive. You should be running faster. It just feels a little bit too slow. And that's kind of a complaint I've heard from other people as well. So I think the game's just a little bit kind of sluggish feeling, but still entertaining, and I like it. I have to finish it one day. Stealth is that Naughty Dog marketed the game with Ellie and Joel together in another adventure that you be killed off in the end. Well, I wouldn't say that Naughty Dog marketed it like a Joel and Ellie game because Joel was in one trailer. Okay, so there was the release date reveal trailer, and Joel's at the end of that. And he has one line. Like, it implies they're going to be working together, but I don't think they marketed the game like it was going to be a Joel and Ellie thing. Like, they even said it was Ellie's game. But yeah, I don't love the way they marketed it. But at the same time, they're not going to spoil his death in the trailers. So it's one of those things where, like, marketing it was just kind of a weird thing in the first place. I don't really care too much about the marketing side of things. But anyways, Sackboy Adventure, Big Adventure, whatever it's called. I'm putting it on the good tier. Dreams. So, this game is really awesome. I mean, if you're into these kind of games where you get to make your own levels, it's great for that. It's one of the best games I've played in that sense. I don't really care for making my own levels. I like playing other people's creations more so. Fake scene. Yeah, no, the fake scene was annoying. But Dreams is pretty great. Really, really enjoyable game. Again, it's like the developers, they made a game where you can just make your own levels and stuff, so it's not really much about the quality of that, because you're playing other people's creations, so some people's levels are going to be bad, but I'm not going to call the game bad because of that. Dreams is, I believe it's the original developers of the original like Little Big Planet games, and it's a game where like you get to make your own games and you play other people's creations, and it's really damn cool for that. I don't play it too much, but it was on sale recently for like $13. It came out like last year, so it's a new game. But there's some really awesome creations I've played. They even have VR support, so I've played some horror games in VR. And some people make amazing games on there. Like I've played some that are like super super awesome. So it's a pretty great game. I'm not gonna put it on like masterpiece or anything like that. I'll put it on great tier because again it's it's one of those games you don't really rank it on the same level as the other ones because it's a different product. Because you're not playing a, you know, you're not playing a like a game that has like a story or anything like that. You're playing other people's creations, and that reminded me. I gotta just type this in my browser real quickly. Sandbox game. There was some game I used to play on PC. Oh my god, this brings back memories. There was some game I used to play on the computer where I don't even remember what it was called. Holy crap. I'm talking like a decade or more ago, where it's like a little, the game is like set in a black box and you can like spawn characters and then you can like burn them or like drop acid and stuff. It sounds very sadistic, but it was a very, very fun game. God damn it, what is it called? That was so many, maybe it was like a Flash player game? Oops. Flash player. Fuck. I don't remember what it was. I actually can't remember what it was called. That because I'm talking so far back. I'm gonna have to Google that afterward. Oh, that's it right there. That's it. Was it called Powder Game? Oh my god. Sorry guys, this video went completely off the rails. Yeah, Powder Game. Holy shit. It was released in 2012. Or maybe, I don't know if that's when it was released, but oh my god. Yep. This brings back memories. You drop a person in and you can walk around. You put some water and fill up the map. Thunder. That's great. I'm gonna have to play that in a little bit. Sorry about that. Anyways, back to the list. Okay, so Uncharted. That's funny that I remember that. Alright, so Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. This was obviously like a spin-off after the events of Uncharted 4. You're following Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross, and it's a really good game. It was originally supposed to be like just a DLC for Uncharted, but then they ended up making it a full-price title, which was kind of an annoying decision, but yeah, really, like, it's an awesome game. Visually, it's incredible. It looks like as good as Uncharted 4, if not better, because the locations are just so amazing looking. So it's like packed with detail and stuff. It's the same gameplay style as 4. It adds a few things, like you can like unlock little things with lockpicks, but that's not anything crazy. But yeah, otherwise it's like the same shooting mechanics and everything as Uncharted 4. You have the rope swing and whatnot. It's really cool. It's not open world, but there is like one mission which is quite open, and I kind of liked that about it. It's got a fantastic set piece at the end. Overall, it's a really damn good Uncharted game. It's kind of like, it's like Miles Morales, right? Where it's a pretty short game. It's again like 5 or 6 hours, and it's not as good as like the main franchise games, but it's really well made overall. It's a pretty awesome game. So I'm putting it all the way up on great tier. I had a lot of fun with it. It's got a good villain. I like what it does with Nadine as a character, because I didn't really care for her in Uncharted 4. She's like one of the only weak aspects of that game. I wouldn't say a weak aspect, but she's just not that great. But in Lost Legacy, I do like what they did with her character. And then you have Sam in it at the end. Lost Legacy was like 5 hours, extremely short. I get that it's a spin-off, but it was expensive. Yeah, well, I don't know. I still bought it for full price and everything, and at the time I didn't care because I'm a huge Uncharted fan, so I was just happy to play another one. But yeah, in retrospect, it should have been like Miles, where Miles was like $50, I think, or something like that. What Lost Legacy should have been. Alright, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. So, many people who watch my channel or follow me at all for any of my gaming stuff probably have heard me say many times before that Uncharted 4 is my favorite game of all time. I love the Uncharted franchise a lot, and this was just the perfect conclusion for that series. Like, it's just such a damn good game. I love everything about it. The story is fantastic. It's a more grounded Uncharted game. Like, there's no, like, supernatural element. There's no ghost pirates or anything. Sam seemed very in Lost Legacy. What do you... Okay, I was gonna say, what do you mean by that? Yeah, no, Uncharted 4, yeah, like I said, the story, you don't have any supernatural elements, which I'm cool with. I just love the way that the characters were handled. It's a personal story for Nate because you get to learn more about his backstory, you get his relationship with his brother, and while his brother was never mentioned prior, I think Sam is like easily the best side character that Nate's been with. And I still love Sully and those kind of characters, and I probably like Sully more overall. But just as far as a relationship goes, I think that's the most interesting one. The dynamic between the two of them, like Sam's a really fun character, and yeah, just a awesome game. It has the best villain in the series. Very weird. Sam acts stupid in Lost Legacy, but he's kind of like that in Uncharted 4 as well. Like he's kind of goofy. So I honestly like the way he was in Lost Legacy, like when he loses his glasses and stuff like that. I think he's kind of funny there. Um, but Uncharted 4, this it doesn't have as many set pieces. Announced another game after Lost Legacy. Maybe I'm wrong. They didn't announce another Uncharted game. There's apparently there was rumors that there's like an Uncharted remake happening. Or sorry, it was rumored that like some PlayStation studio was gonna be working on a new Uncharted game, but it got scrapped. And then it was rumored that Naughty Dog is remaking Uncharted, like doing like an Uncharted remaster or something like that. And I think the same thing got said about Last of Us being remade. I don't know if that was ever confirmed because I know Naughty Dog didn't say anything about it. If like I wouldn't mind if they did like another remaster of Last of Us and they just updated the graphics so it looked like part 2 and maybe they fixed the gameplay elements. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like we'll see. But yeah, Uncharted 4, awesome story. Gameplay I love. I think the shooting in the previous games was a little clunky and it's fantastic in Uncharted 4. The rope swinging is such an awesome like addition. It's a small thing, but it is awesome just like jumping around and swinging on the rope. So love that. So yeah, going all the way up to masterpiece tier. All right, next up we got Death Stranding, which is a very very divisive game. Because a lot of people out there they do not like the gameplay, like where you're just walking around delivering packages. And I can understand that it doesn't sound very interesting. But I personally love this game. Next to like Last of Us and like Uncharted, it's probably the most investing story in a game for me personally. It's really weird, but I'm fine with that. Like, because the deeper, like the more I got into the game, just the more I got connected to the characters. It's got some really cool stuff in it. I love like the ending where you find out about Sam as a character more and his father and stuff. I won't like dive into it or anything, spoil it, but just some really great twists. It's a pretty emotional game as well, in my opinion. Like, each chapter is focused on a different character, and they all have something kind of emotionally rich or like deep about their characters. So it's pretty awesome for that. And I'm really excited for the director's cut because, it's a cheap upgrade. It's like $10 in the States, so like $15 where I live. But that's a cheap upgrade. And yeah, I'm really excited to play the director's cut because it's been a while since I've played the game. And I actually like delivering the packages. I have to be honest. I actually kind of like that gameplay loop. There's something just nice and peaceful about just, going across some big map and delivering packages and like planning out your route and choosing the gear you're going to bring with you and like balancing it. Like it's not traditional gameplay. I wouldn't want it to happen in multiple different games, but it's really cool for like a one-time experience. The only thing that sucks in the game is the combat. Like the combat is not good. The bosses are lame. The stealth sections are cool at first, but once you get the hand of them, they're really easily done. But all in all, like I think it's a great game. I can't lie. I love it. So it's going on an amazing tier. All right, Destruction All-Stars. All right, so this game was originally supposed to be a full-priced launch title on the PS5. Thank God that didn't happen because that would have been the biggest joke. And then it was later a free game on PS Plus for like a couple months, and it's like I think now it's about $25 to buy or so, which is $25 is like about where I would put it. Like it's like Rocket League in that sense. There's not much to it. The biggest issue with this game is nobody plays it. Like you go into the lobbies now and it takes a while to get into a match, and they removed like I don't know if they removed modes, but they combined them all into a playlist now, so you can't actually choose which one you're gonna play. It's just dumb, right? I think the problem with this game is that it's a PS5 exclusive. It should have been on PS4 as well. if they want it to last, because it's definitely not a game that can only run on PS5. It's a pretty standard game. There's not much to it. Yeah, you're gonna have to remove ray tracing and stuff like that, but whatever. But no, it could easily run on PS4, and it should be put on PS4 in my opinion, because that would probably add, at least like 1 million more players. It'd probably add more than that. And that would definitely just increase the game's longevity. You'd get way more matches going, and then they could roll more content out. But they've turned it into like a game with like season passes and stuff, and I just don't touch it anymore. It's just it's an entertaining game when you are in a good match, but that's if you can even get into one. So I'm gonna put it on mediocre/bad. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's a mediocre title, and mediocre is about a 5 out of 10 for me, which is where I would put that game. So like just kind of a thing here, guys. So mediocre would be 5, bad would be 4, and then terrible is like anywhere between 3 and 1. Okay, 6 out of 10. Good is 7. 8 is great. Amazing is 9. Masterpiece is 10. AKA, this is the same rating scale as IGN, or at least what it used to be, because I think they removed like the words. All right, next up, Ghost of Tsushima. So this is a game that I think is really, really good. I think part of the reason it was so hyped up was because people were hating on The Last of Us Part 2. Like, in all honesty, I think it's a great game, don't get me wrong, but it did seem like it was kind of like, oh, everybody's bashing on Last of Us Part 2, so then people were starting to say, like, now Ghost of Tsushima, that's a true masterpiece. Like, that's a game that looks really good. And I was, like, there's just certain YouTubers, like Tyron Magnus would, like, say, oh, well, it's a 10 out of 10 game, no matter what these gaming companies say. It just seemed so cheesy and stuff, but I'm not trying to, like, take away from Ghost of Tsushima. I think it's great. I think it's an awesome game. I've been playing the Director's Cut recently, which, by the way, the Director's Cut's a ripoff. It should not be $50 or whatever it is that I paid for it. I think it was like 40 something, because like all they're adding is haptic feedback and the DLC. The DLC, I can understand paying for that. $20, $25, fair price. But paying for basically just a few minor upgrades, it's lame. But whatever. It's $240. You go to bed. It's $440 where you live, Chelsea. Don't tell me to sleep. I am going to sleep after this video, trust me. But yeah, no. Ghost of Tsushima, awesome game. Similar to God of War, it's got fantastic combat. It's really, really great. Especially like when I was going back to it and just playing it more. It's addicting. Like just slicing up guys. The best part of that game is just going to like the large bases where you just have like a lot of enemies to take down. Because sometimes when you're just facing off 3 guys, you finish them off so quickly and it's underwhelming. So really good combat. The story is serviceable. I don't think it's got a masterpiece of a story. It's a pretty good story. But it's not anything like crazy special. It's just a revenge story, I guess. I do like the ending of the game. The ending of the game is the best part. I remember like about halfway through I kind of suspected the direction they were going as far as the final boss being your uncle. I was kind of like, okay, I feel like that's the direction they're going. And that was a great moment. Music is fantastic. He was goofy on Uncharted 4, but there were some moments where he was serious. In Last Legacy, he was way too goofy for me. I haven't beat Ghost of Tsushima yet. It's kind of boring. I have some friends, I think both of my friends who played it, they're not the biggest fans of it either. Like, it feels like a really well-made Assassin's Creed game, I guess is how I'd put it. It's better than them, obviously, but yeah, I don't think it's quite as amazing as a lot of fans like to act like it is, but I also don't think it's like an okay game either. I think it's really good. So I'm going to put it on the great tier. Good combat, good music. The world's nice. The game looks beautiful. It looks fantastic. The particle effects are like truly amazing. So it's great in that sense. All right, next up, Infamous Second Son, which was one of the first PlayStation exclusives. It was like the first big PS4 exclusive, I would say, and that was March of 2014. And then Ghost of Tsushima was like the last big PS4 exclusive, which was 2020 July. I mean, I guess technically, what do you call it, is still coming out. God of War Ragnarok is going to be coming out on PS4 as well, which I don't really know if I like that, but whatever. Infamous Second Son. It's been a long time since I've played this game. I should go back to it, honestly, because it's pretty damn fun. I really like the first two Infamous games. I never finished the first one when I was younger, but I did play the second one, and I really liked it. And Second Son, it definitely feels like an evolution. Like, it looks... Because I find that the first two Infamous games don't really look realistic. They have, like, a slightly fake look to them, like, kind of cartoonish almost. Whereas, like, Second Son definitely had more of a realistic look. They're pretty fun. Like, they're good superhero games. They've got good combat. The abilities that you have are really cool, because the first two Infamous games, obviously, it's just electricity. But in Second Son, when you play as... I don't even remember the guy's name, but you get, like, smoke powers, or, like, ash or whatever, like, video powers, neon powers. So it's kind of like a cool power set. The world is pretty generic. It's very, like, Ubisoft feeling, but pretty good game. And you can kind of, like, choose between being, like, a good hero or a bad hero. So there's just some fun elements to it like that. Again, not anything, like, crazy special, but it's a entertaining game. It's a lot of great / good tier games on this list. All right, next up, Shadow of the Colossus. So I played this for the first time a couple of years ago. It was a game that was originally released on the PS2, and then they remade it for PS3, and then they remade it for PS4. And the PS4 version is awesome. The game looks incredible. Bluepoint did a amazing job, like, remaking it, remastering it, whatever you want to call it. I believe it is considered a remake. Like, it's beautiful to look at. It's such a nice looking game. Makes me want to go play it again, actually. So it's a game that's pretty straightforward. You're just going around and killing 14, I think it is, different bosses, these giant Colossus monsters. And it's just really awesome. The music's fantastic. It's really exhilarating and exciting. It's a short game. It's like 5 hours or less. So it's a really quick one to play, and there's not much to the story, but really well made. It's the open world is very empty and, like, barren, and there's something, like, oddly beautiful about it. Because I think it was actually an unfinished game originally, but it worked out in the end because it's really damn good. The open world and everything. So very, very, well-made game. The biggest issue is the controls. The controls suck. I mean, when you're trying to, like, ride your horse or climb the monster, it's hard to do sometimes. Like, they're just... It's not well-made in that sense. They should have definitely, like, fixed that for the remake. I can get over it, but it is definitely a hard game to play at times. But really good graphics, really good gameplay and everything. Or not... Well, not... I shouldn't say gameplay, but the experience of it is great. Sorry, I'm starting to get tired here, so I'm kind of rambling. But I'm going to put it on the amazing tier. I think it's awesome. Alright, and last but not least, we have the Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection. So, I was debating putting this on the list because they're PS3 games, but at the same time, I put Last of Us Remastered on here, so I was like, okay, I'll throw on Nathan Drake Collection. So, I am a huge Uncharted fan. As you guys know, like I said earlier, Uncharted 4 is my favorite game. And I love the first 3 titles. I don't think they're as good as the 4th one, but, I played these 3 before I played the original, or before I played 4, so they mean a lot to me. 1 is the weakest by far. It's a pretty outdated game. It's got really standard gameplay, but it still, introduces us to the characters, so I gotta commend it for that. The second one, Drake's Fortune, I'm so tired now. The second one, Among Thieves, it kind of, like, I don't know if revolutionized is the right word, but it definitely, like, was a huge milestone for action games back in 2009. Like, it was considered a masterpiece back then. You had just, like, a way bigger game than the first one. Instead of being set on an island, you got, like, a globe-trotting adventure, way bigger story, cooler puzzles, more interesting characters. I still love 1, don't get me wrong, but it's just outdated. Like, every aspect of 1 is improved in the sequels by far. But 2, again, it improved on everything, like I was just saying. And it's a really awesome game. Like, the locations are so phenomenal in that game. Really awesome overall. The only thing that I would consider weaker about it than, like, 4... Well, man, a lot of elements I think are weaker than they are in 4. I think 4 is the best one all around. But I find the villain is kind of cheesy in the game, Lazarevich. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I like Harry Flynn a lot more. Lazarevich is just kind of generic, but I don't care. It doesn't affect my rating at all. And then Drake's Deception, the third game, when I was younger, was my favorite one. Before the 4th one came out, it was my favorite. It was like... I spent so many hours on the multiplayer back on the PS3 days. And the servers are sadly shut down now, so we won't get to experience Uncharted multiplayer ever again. But Uncharted 3 had such a damn good multiplayer. That's the highlight of the game for me, was the multiplayer, because all the maps and just playing the lab. You guys might not even know what the lab is, but it was like these maps that were supposed to be like maps in the game originally, but they never finished them, so they just removed all the detail and they're just giant like colored blocks. And those were so good. Like it's honestly like it's probably my favorite multiplayer experience of all time. I loved playing that back in the day. As far as the campaign goes, I think it's great as well. It's not as polished of a story as Uncharted 2, but it has more set pieces, some really great locations. So it's kind of on par with 2 for me. I guess I would give the edge to 2 for its story, but 3, like I said, it's got really awesome set pieces, and it has the multiplayer, which I love. So great game all around. So as a collection, I'm putting it on the masterpiece tier because I think they're phenomenal games. If we are getting a remake, another one, I'm cool with that. Like if it's gonna have Uncharted 4 level graphics or better, then that'll be sick for those games. But we'll see what happens with that. I'm hoping it's not. I don't know. We'll see what they're doing. It's something I kind of question. Anyways, now I'm gonna actually rank everything as they're now placed in their locations. So, obviously mediocre / bad 5 out of 10 game. We have Destruction All Stars. Knack, we have a 6 out of 10 game right there. Now we move on to the good tier. Now, out of these titles, my least favorite. I'd probably. I gotta think about it. I'm not necessarily going with Days Gone. I just gotta kind of process this. Okay, Horizon I like more than Sackboy. Detroit I'd probably put over Horizon, honestly. Probably put that about there. Infamous Second Son. This is where it gets tough to rank them. I gotta process this in my head. Infamous Second Son or Ratchet and Clank. I haven't played Infamous in that long, so I should probably put Ratchet and Clank above it. Had more fun with Ratchet and Clank or Horizon. Horizon's a better game overall. Detroit, Days Gone. Go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, between these two, I like Until Dawn more probably. Do I like Detroit? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go with that for now. It seems so low for Horizon. If I replay it, and I can definitely see myself liking it more. Like I could see it jumping up to the great tier, but again, I have to replay it. All right, on to the great tier. I'm gonna put Dreams last, just because. I mean, again, it just doesn't. It's not really on the same. It's like a different type of game because it's user generated levels. It's ones that people are making themselves. So, and like it should be up here in that sense, but it's just like I said, it's weird to rank it among those. All right, of these, the worst one is probably Miles Morales. I really like it, but it's the most simple. Returnal, probably go next. Then I would say Uncharted, Lost Legacy. Then I would go Ratchet and Clank. Then, yep, I'd stick with that. This might actually be. I might keep that as it is, actually, just looking at it. Shadow of the Colossus, Death Stranding, Spider-Man, God of War. Yep, that's going to stay as is. Alright. And there you go. That would be my ranking, now that I've sorted those ones out. So, from bottom to top, we've got Destruction All-Stars, Knack, Sackboy Big Adventure, Days Gone, Infamous Second Son, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Until Dawn, Dreams, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Returnal, Uncharted The Lost Legacy, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Shadow of the Colossus. Well, actually, you know what? Okay, I'm going to put that there. Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, Spider-Man, God of War, Bloodborne, Uncharted, Demon's Souls, Last of Us, and then Uncharted 4. So here's the thing. On the days where I look at Last of Us Part 2 and I love it, because, again, like I said, it's a game I'm flip-floppy with. When I do love it, it's like there for me. When I'm more divisive on the story, it's more over here. Like I said, it's a game that I'm so flip-floppy with because, the story, sometimes I love the story. Like when I first played the game, like I was really emotionally affected by the game. That sounds weird, but like, there's some stuff in the game that's sad. Like the ending where Joel and Ellie are talking the night before Joel gets killed. Like that was so sad to watch. So definitely hits you in the feels. So it's tough. So I'm actually gonna keep it there. I know it's weird, like having it go from here to there, but again, it's such a game that I'm so flip floppy with. I do think it's technical wise a masterpiece. So there's that. So that's my ranking. Now I'm gonna hop on to this game. Oh, it's actually from 2007. That makes more sense. I was gonna say 2012 doesn't make sense. Fight. Oh my god, that guy got killed. Fire. So funny. I used to be so addicted to this game. But okay, now I'm gonna play this while I discuss my predictions for the PlayStation. Wait, the story was lame, but I love the gameplay though. For which game? Oh, for part 2, for Last of Us Part 2. Beat the game 10 times. Nice. Yeah, I've played. I think, like I said, I think I've played it 4 times all the way through. 5 times if you're like I'm on my 5th playthrough, almost done. Yeah, I don't think the story's lame. I think it's just really divisive, I guess. That is one hell of a storm those guys are witnessing. But yeah, so here's my predictions. So I think we're gonna 100% see God of War. I think that's kind of a given. It's their biggest game that's announced right now, and I just don't see them. The game's supposed to come out next year. I don't see them just announcing it. I don't see them announcing it last year and then skip ahead a year, the next big event, and there's still nothing on it. I think we're going to be getting it, which, we better be getting it. If we do, the question is, are we going to be seeing gameplay, or are we going to be seeing, like a trailer, like a cinematic trailer, or are we going to be seeing, like a... Okay, what I mean is, like, so you look at Last of Us Part 2. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. It's 2 announcement. So Last of Us Part 2, when it was announced, we had this trailer with Ellie playing the guitar. And that was a cinematic trailer, right? None of this stuff is in the game. Like, literally none of this. Of this cutscene. This is all pre-made. I still think that's a fine enough way to announce a game. I remember freaking screaming at the top of my lungs when this was announced. Right? I think that's a great announcement. A great way to announce a game. But that is obviously a... what do you call it? A cinematic trailer. Right? Whereas, like, if you look at Last of Us 2 release date trailer, I don't know if it'll come up here, release date reveal trailer, this is actually like an in-game trailer where the cutscenes are, like, what the scenes that we're seeing are cutscenes that are actually in the game. So, as far as the new God of War goes, God of War Ragnarok, whatever they're going to end up calling it, because that technically hasn't been confirmed, because I imagine we're going to be seeing it. Well, what I'm discussing, Don, is I'm discussing the there's a PlayStation 5 showcase happening on Thursday, so tomorrow technically, and it's their big event of the year. Like, it's their E3, their answer to E3 or whatever. Everybody else had their E3 like last month, but their PlayStation's having theirs now, and well, it's not called E3, but it's their event. And I'm just discussing what games I think are going to be there. And right now I'm just talking about that I think God of War is going to be shown, like the next God of War, because it was announced a year ago, but we haven't seen anything about it. So I'm just discussing what I think they're going to show for it. And I don't know if we're going to get gameplay per se. I hope we do. If we do get a trailer, I'm hoping it's a trailer like this, where, like, that's obviously gameplay right there. So a trailer that's like a mixture of cutscenes and gameplay elements, like this trailer was. I'm hoping we get something like that. I'm hoping it's not a cinematic trailer like that Last of Us one I just showed was, where it was Ellie playing the guitar, because none of that's in the game, and that's just all pre-rendered stuff. So I'm hoping it's something like this if it is going to be a cinematic or a non-gameplay related reveal. But it could be gameplay. I don't know. I'm hoping so. But at the same time, the stream is confirmed to be like 40 minutes, and I don't know if they're going to show, gameplay for God of War if it's a 40-minute stream, because that would probably take up like 10 minutes or so. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm really hoping we get it. Well, I know we're going to get it, but I'm hoping that we get gameplay is what I'm saying. All right, so sorry if I'm like all over the place. I'm getting really tired right now, but I gotta discuss this stuff. So that's my big prediction, and it's not even really like I think most people agree that that's gonna happen, that we're gonna be getting God of War in some way, shape, or form. And hopefully a release date, that'd be nice too, because obviously you have to wait till 2022. If we do get a release date, which I think is plausible, I think there'll be I think there's a good chance it'll come out in like the second half probably, not necessarily like as far away as like November or something, but I think it could be around August or so. But I don't know if we'll get a release date. We probably won't, but maybe we will. I don't know. What does the pump do? If I shoot it if I light it up on fire, does it do anything? Nope. But sorry, I'm so fucking tired. I'm like just rambling here. I don't know. What do you think we're gonna see at the event, Dens? Do you think there'll be anything big? All right, my next prediction. Sorry. I think we'll see. I think from Naughty Dog, we'll finally get to see Factions, because Factions has been known for a while that it's happening, right? Like it was in leaked files. Back when like Joel's death leaked and all that stuff from Part 2 leaked early. There was also footage of multiplayer that leaked as well. So back in like 2020, and they said that Factions will happen. It's going to be a separate game. So their next game, like maybe you're going to have to buy, like it'll be in its own separate case. You can buy Last of Us 2 Factions or whatever it's called, which would be interesting. So I'm hoping we see Factions. What I want to see from Factions as just a game is like, because I think the first Factions was good, but I think they need to improve on things. And I love the first Factions, but if they're going to be selling it as a separate title, there's stuff they need to do. For example, I think they should allow you to play as infected. I think this would be awesome. I've always wanted this, like a mode where players get to, like, they should have one mode where you get to fend off against hordes of infected like they do in a lot of other games. I think that would be fun. I think they should have a mode with like vehicles and stuff. I think that could be really cool. Not necessarily Battle Royale, because I don't like Battle Royale, but I think if you had just had a mode where there was vehicles and really big maps, that would be cool. But no, I would love the chance to play as infected. Like imagine you get to play as a runner, so you're running around. Then you can play as a clicker, and you get abilities. You get to play as like a bloater, and you have abilities that are different, or shambler. That would be so awesome. So they better do that. That's my biggest hope for Factions, is that they add the ability to play as infected, because that would just be freaking awesome. But yeah, more modes. Like I said, a survival mode where, again, you get to face off against hordes of different infected. A mode where you get to play as infected and like go after other players. And then like the traditional modes we got in the last one. Stuff like that. I think that would be really great. And as well, the first one, obviously, like in Factions, you were able to visit your own camp, and you had to get supplies and stuff for your camp members, but you couldn't see the camp. It was just a little circle on the main thing. I think what they should do, it would be really cool, is actually allow you to like go into your camp, and you can actually like upgrade it and stuff, and like add different elements. Like you can, like have like NPCs that you can talk to and stuff. I think that would be kind of cool. And then they could say like, oh, hey, I need you to do this for me. And then you go out and you do a mission, like a little run where you have to go to like some building and there's infected and you have to clear them out. Just kind of like little stories within the community. I think that'd be really cool. And then sometimes your community gets attacked and you have to fight them. And then you could kind of make your community, and you could invite friends. Then if you had like a clan, like how they have like clan tags in Call of Duty and stuff like that. So they do something like that, where you have like a clan, and then you can have like up to 5 friends in it maybe, and that's like your camp, and you build upon it. Do I think this is going to happen? No, but I think things like that would be really cool and unique for Factions. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting mostly the same as the first game and a few extra modes and stuff, but One can wish. So that's one thing I'd like to see. I agree that we're going to see GTA 5 and expanded and enhanced. That's kind of a given, I think, almost, because it's supposed to be coming out in, I think, in November this year, and we've seen, like, nothing. It was literally announced last year, and the trailer they showed was, I don't think, footage from the expanded and enhanced edition. I think it was just a regular GTA 5 trailer, so they definitely need to give us a look at that. I'm not personally excited for it. I will get it because I like GTA 5, but it's not something I care too much about, so I'm hoping whatever they show us is very brief, like like a minute and a half long trailer that just shows off, like, wow, look at this ray tracing, we have haptic feedback, and then boom, end it. Like, I don't really care. But yeah, and I agree that I'll be there. There's a lot of rumors about Blue Point's next game being shown, and because the rumor is that PlayStation has acquired Blue Point. It was kind of leaked by PlayStation themselves, and so I think there's a possibility that we're going to get an announcement of Blue Point's next game. A lot of people think it's going to be a remake of what's that game called that everybody loves? Metal Gear Solid, which I think would be pretty awesome if that happens. I've never played Metal Gear Solid. I've only played a little bit of the fifth one. It was cool. I don't really have many thoughts on it though, but yeah, no, it was cool. So we'll see what we get. Ice. What does ice do? Is it like freeze them where they are? Hoping for survival mode. If you're still here, let me know. I'm about to pass out, I think. Fireworks. Oh, those are... Oh, I see. You probably have to light the fireworks. Does this game not have any sound? I guess not. That's sad. Gas. Torch. Snowball? What the hell's S-ball? Oh, it's some bouncy fucking thing. A virus. What the fuck is a virus gonna do? Gonna give you COVID-19 virus. Get the fucking virus. We got oil. Oh shit. I've caused a fucking Oh yeah, he's dead. Shit. Let that build up, right? Lots of oil there. We're gonna put some fires in it. Now comes the crazy part. Boom. How are none of them dead yet? You think oil and fire would just kill everybody? Choose to be a wolf or Scarn factions. Yeah, that makes sense, because like the first one was obviously you had the fireflies, so that makes sense that they'll be like that. This is not doing what it's supposed to. Maybe there's a max amount you can use. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Okay. Oh wait. Yeah, it's not letting me fucking... Weird. Lasers. Ooh, acid. Terrifying. Alright, I know what's gonna happen. So this is gonna be just disturbing, but it's gotta happen. Pen free. That's not what I fucking... What? Oh, block. Maybe that's what I have to... Yeah. Will there be a hunter? Yeah. I mean, maybe they'll... Well, because that was obviously the leaks that happened a while ago. So maybe there's a chance that they'll bring back, like, the other ones as well. Like, give you more options. I hope it... Yeah. I hope so as well, but we'll see. Oops. Fire. That's what I meant to do. I shouldn't be able to escape my little prison that I have given them. Now, we will give them acid. Some salt, maybe? Some lasers. Alright, I think I'm going to end the stream here. I'm pretty tired. Well, wait, there's one game I want to find as well. So I know Powder Game, okay. That was found. There was another game I used to play. I think this one's going to be a lot harder to find. It was a Flash player game as well, I'm sure. Game. Headshot. And they would say, like, headshot when you got a headshot. But I don't think that you'll be able to find... a game simply called Headshot. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Shit. It was like 2 teams, and then you would like walk together, walk towards each other, and shoot at each other. Sounds very, very vague description, but it was something I used to play. Alright, guys. I'm going to end this one here, but thank you all for joining. It's been a long stream.